Hey, thanks for stopping by at Twisted Art Designs. Today I thought I would do some art journaling, but on a smaller scale, on a altered Rolodex Memorydex card. What I want to do is just apply some of my mixed media techniques like I do in a large art journal to one of these little cards. So here's a Rolodex card, a regular Rolodex card. Here's a Memorydex card. So they are a little bit taller. They're the same length but taller. And I decided I'm going to use this thin, recycled, upcycled piece of cardboard as my substrate. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the card. And let's see, it's a bit tall, so I'll probably cut it a little shorter. So I'm going to just cut the card to the size that I want. And to add some interest, I think I'm going to just pencil a nice little design at the top and cut this out into a prettier shape than it is. So I'm just kind of drawing a little bit of a scallop. It's not anything too complicated, and that'll just make it look a little bit more fun and interesting. So now I'm just going to take my scissors and trim that. And then next what I'm going to do is put a layer of white gesso over this card, just to cover up the fact that it's kind of a grayish color, you know, grayish. So I'm just taking some regular white gesso and I'm just going to brush it on to just kind of get rid of that grayish tan tone color of the card, and then I'm going to just let this dry. Next I'm going to take some of this Tim Holtz Distress Collage Medium and some tissue paper, and I'm going to apply the distress paste and then kind of scrunch up the tissue paper and put it on just to make some texture on the card. I'm going to brayer on some acrylic paint. I have more layers that I want to add, but because this is such a little tiny tight space, it's not a big giant art journal, I have such a small place to work with that I'm going to add some more background interest when I'm done collaging, because I want to do a mini collage and there's probably not going to be a lot of background room left. So I'm finding little bits of things. I have little tiny things like this. This came off a little pad of flags, you know, like scrapbooking, but ephemera, and Tim Holtz flowers that are small. This is a real postage stamp from Amsterdam. This cute little picture came off that thumb book that I received in Happy Mail that came from a subscriber, from Tammy. I love that. So did this, and I like that flower, so magnolia, so I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to use this cool bug. This came from this clip art from J. Lilu from Etsy, and I just punched it out, and I'm going to add that, and I have a cool idea for that. So I'm going to just play around with that, maybe a little bit of book text, and start to lay things out and see what I come up with for my collage. I love this little piece, and it's kind of a corner area, so I'm going to put that, I think, down here. I love that little scene. And maybe put the Amsterdam postage stamp over it and above it. And then maybe put this. I love this little flag girl. Maybe I'm going to tear that. I'm going to tear the top of that, just for some more interest instead of such straight edges. Let's make some little tears. I like it. You know, when you're doing collage, it's kind of just play around and see what comes. See what you can create. And there might not be room for all of it since it is a small space. I love that bug. That's got to go on there. I am still going to trim this out. So I'm going to cut this out and then I'm going to start gluing things into place. I'm going to take some clear gesso and I'm going to brush over that circle with the bug with clear gesso. So the difference between this and regular gesso, it still has the little grit to it, the little fine bit of grab and grit, and so it'll still be the same as far as adding mediums over the top of it. They'll be able to grab it. You could use colored pencils or anything over clear gesso. But when it dries, obviously white gesso is white, this is clear, so you still see the image. Let me show you how it's shiny. And see how it's just got a little bit of grip and grab, and it's going to allow me to do some artwork within that circle over that bug. And of course you want to let it totally dry. Now that that's dry, I'm going to come in with some colored pencils, and I'm just using Uniposca right now. They were close at hand, so that's what I grabbed. And I'm going to just add a little bit of color to that bug. It's cream color, and I want to make it have more of a color that a bright colored beetle bug might have. I'm trying to stay away from the black spots. And I'm just going to add a little bit of interest to the bug. Maybe even a little touch of orange. So there, I just bumped up the colors of the bug. And that already looks so cool. Look at how it made that just stand out and pop right off the card and make it the star of the focal point. I love that. Okay, now I'm going to take some metallic watercolor paints. These are Paul Rubens. This is what they look like. And I'm going to do a tiny little bit of painting on the bug with metallic watercolor paints. Okay, so I wet the top of my paints. I'm going to pick up some color with my brush. I'm going to use a lime green. And I'm going to just come in here and add a little bit of metallic, and I'm trying to be very precise to not go over the black or outside the lines. Oh, look how beautiful that's going to be. Now I picked up some of the orange. Same thing, I'm going to come over this orange. The colored pencil just put down a nice base for me, and then the metallic watercolor, because it's translucent, it'll just add to the orange pencil. And look how pretty. Oh, it's so pretty. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay, let's do a little bit of a yellowy gold on this part of the bug. Maybe a little tiny hint of blue. Okay. Look how pretty that turned out. So pretty. I love it. Love it. I think I'm going to add a little color to his legs. I'm going to go with a lime green. And try to just add a little touch on those legs. Make those shine too. Okay. Now I'm going to take a Arteza brush pen and I'm just going to add a little bit of color to those leaves on the magnolia. They're very gray. The way that they were printed, whatever they came out of, oh, that little thumb book they were in, they're printed really gray looking, almost a grayscale. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of green to them. And these Arteza little brush pens are awesome for tinting images out of magazines and books. I love them for that. See how they tint that so nicely. I think I'm going to do the same thing to the little center of the flower with another Arteza brush pen. Just add a little more yellow to it, bump it up a little. Maybe even come out here a little bit, just add just some hints of yellow. Like that. It just looks tinted, which I like. And then to carry that same color, I think I'm going to come over here and on these little, these are flowers on a flower stand and they're wrapped like in paper, so I'm going to just do just a tiny bit of yellow on those. Kind of rub it out a little bit so it just gives them a hint, and that'll tie in the colors of yellow. Rule of 3. Next I used a fine point Uniposca pen in gold metallic to go around that white of the circle. So I made the white circle gold, and I think that this needs a little bit more circle interest to it, and I have another video on how I deconstruct a magazine when I am using a magazine for collage. And here's my little tray of circles. So when I go through a magazine, I take all different sizes of circle punches, and anything that I see that's just an interesting color and pattern, I punch it out and I save them all in all different sizes, and I love to use them on my pages. So since there's blue, a little bit of blue in my bug, I'm going to add a little bit of this blue circle down here, and I know that's where it's going to get punched out to go on the card, and that's okay. Some of it'll get punched away, but that's all right. I'm going to just use some art glitter glue because I've got it on hand, and I'm going to glue this little circle down here for a little bit of interest. And then the part of it that gets cut off, I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to use it over here. Maybe up here. So it's just going to carry your eye around the card like that. Perfect. See, it just needed a little bit more circles. So now it's got the circle from the postage stamp and that circle and then this circle that's been cut. I love that. I take my self-healing mat and a paper piercer and I'm going to pierce holes around this card, because what I want to do is to stitch around this card. And so since I know that this is going to be where the cutouts are going to be, I'm going to just kind of mark it. That's going to get cut away anyway, so I'm just making a little mark, and that's going to show me where to start and stop. Now on your self-healing mats you have little squares, so you could use those if you wanted to for making this very uniform. So you could count 1, 2, 3 and put a dot or put a hole, and then 1, 2, 3 and put a hole. So I'm probably going to do that, and I'm going to mark this all the way around and punch little holes in it. Next I'm just taking a regular needle and some DMC embroidery floss, nothing special, just black embroidery floss. I think it's 6 strand, but it doesn't really matter, whatever you've got on hand. And to measure the length, I kind of just did across the bottom 4 or 5 times, and if it's not enough, that's not a big deal either. So here are all my dots around the edge, as you can see, and I'm going to start in that first hole and carefully pull it through. Try not to rip your card, so you don't want to pull hard, and just let that knot come through. So then I'm going to go to the next little hole, and I'm going to go from the back up through the back again. You're always going to go through the back side. So you go into that next little hole that you made. And before you pull it tight, you put your needle through the loop and then pull it like that, lightly, just gently. And then again, go through the next hole, through the back, and you'll end up with a loop, and you go right to left and put your needle through that loop. I think this is affecting you being able to see. There you go. So see how, turn my lamp on a little bit better, how you're making that little loop and then you're kind of catching it. Let me show you one more time. Go through the back hole, carefully pull it through, don't let it tangle. When you get to a loop like this, put your needle through the loop and gently pull, and you're going to end up with the nicest, prettiest little border around this. So again, always through the back, through the hole. The holes are your guide, and they're pre-punched, and it helps you from tearing your card. And then here's my loop, and needle through it. Right to left, needle through it. Gently pull, and look at this cool border. Let's see if you can see. See that neat border? It's just a simple embroidery stitching border, but on a card, if you stitch on a card, it just is so pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and do that all the way around my card and make this cute embroidery floss border. And what I like to do when I come to the corner is just, you're going up in the next hole that's going to start up this side, and instead of catching that loop, I'm going to just let this loop go and start over here like this, and now you're going to start again, and you're going to go into the next hole. So there's only one in the corners. I don't catch that loop like that, and I'm going to just start again. So here is how it looks. I love it stitched, and then when you get to the end of your string, if you don't have enough, you just bring it through, and I just taped it down, and then I'm going to just start in the next hole over. Actually, I'm going to start in that same hole, start where I ended, and then just keep going. And again, you want to tape down the little tail. So here's my stitched card. I love it. I think that just adds a lot to it. I think it looks really cute. And oops, I'm a little close. I love the stitching. So now I'm going to take a charcoal pencil and my little scrubber brush that is a paintbrush I cut off short, and I use that as a little scrubber. And I'm going to just put a little bit of charcoal around some of these images like the bug, and then blend it, and then just make a little cast shadow. It just makes that little piece just appear more like it's popping up. It's not, but the cast shadow really adds something to it. So see that little cast shadow. So I'm going to do that around this little circle here. Just put a little bit of charcoal and blend it. And around the big circle. Now I'm going to add a little bit more color, and this is with Faber-Castell Artist pens. I'm going to just come alongside this little triangle here because it really lost its shape. And just put down a little bit of that color. Oops, I got it on there. That's okay. And blend it out a little bit. When these dry, they're permanent, which makes them really a nice mixed media pen. So then that shows that point off more, makes it pop up a little bit. I just like to add a little bit, hints of color here and there. And colors that you use, so if you used a yellow and an orange and a blue, you want to bring it in somewhere else on your design. You don't have to. This is just, and this isn't necessarily mean this is right or wrong. This is just my technique. I'm going to do the same thing with a turquoise blue, just to bring in some more. You've got turquoise in here and you've got it in the bug, so I want to bump up the turquoise color in a few spots. I'm just using my finger to blend it out, so I put it on and use my finger to kind of blend it out. And see how now that turquoise color kind of matches what's in this circle over here. It just carries your eye. That's what you want to do, is have things carry you around your design. It makes it look interesting, and it makes your eye follow around the design. Then as a last step, I like to come back in and add a couple of little dimensional details. Like these are little tiny Jolie flowers with a sequin in the middle, and there's a little flower at the end of this little flag, so I thought it'd be cute to just duplicate it with a Jolie flower. Put one up in the corner. I think I'll put one right here. Now I'm going to take some Nuvo drops. This is in Ripened Pumpkin, and where there's this little orange flower, I think I'm going to just add some little dimensional dots to that. And even on the little center of the magnolia would be cute. So this is where you just kind of come back in and play around with it and add some cute dimensional things and just make it fun and interesting. Put my card in my little tidy tray. I'm going to use my art glitter glue with a fine tip point. I'm going to come up here at this point and just add some glue, and I'm not going to be specific about the shape of it. I kind of want it a little wonky. And I'm going to do a little bit over here. Same thing. And maybe a little over here. Yep, that'll look perfect. So now I'm going to take some glass beads. These are little tiny micro glass beads that are clear. You can get them in colors, you can get them different sizes, really microfine. These aren't the tiny ones, these are a little bit bigger. And I'm going to sprinkle those on. And carefully tap it off. And then use my tidy tray to dump them back in their bag. Easy peasy, no mess. And then I'm going to let that totally dry. The glue will dry clear, and then I've got some gorgeous glass beads embellishing my card. And the last thing, I had this beautiful little tiny feather that came from my finches. I have two zebra finches, and I found this little feather by their cage. So it's beautiful. I added that to the card, and here's my little mini collage card. So I've got some metallic watercolors on the bog and all different kinds of really neat pictures in the background. This little flower stand and this cute little scene. Amsterdam postage stamps, some glass beads, a feather, some dimensional flowers, some Nuvo drops, nice color and texture in the background, and a stitched border. So I hope you like that. And then for the bottom, I'm going to use my punch to punch out the spot. Carefully slip this in here. I just carefully slipped it in there, and I'm going to go ahead and punch the card. And now I have my two little punched out spots where I can put this on my Rolodex. So I hope you enjoyed this project and maybe it gave you some ideas of something to do on an index card, a Rolodex card for your Rolodex or Memorydex. So thanks for stopping by, and go make some art today, because art soothes the heart.